I am looking forward to this. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Sunday Adelaja here from Kyiv, Ukraine. I am actually looking forward to today's interview so very much. I kind of sense that Daniel is a very serious young man, and I think my curiosity was confirmed when I was reading his story today. So I really would like the world to hear his story. So everybody that's watching me right now, let me greet you. Hello, Rinde, welcome. Asani, welcome. Blessing, welcome. Amaku, Yomi, Madabuko, Aza, Sarah, Tuli, Emmanuel Temitokwe, Mrs. Abiola, Rose Bell, Dolapo. First of all, how do you greet people today? Happy Valentine. Happy Valentine. Yeah, you know, Pastor Maiwa was just telling me that thank God for Pastor Bosse. If not, today would have just been a regular work day here. We wouldn't have noticed that there is anything going on out there in the world. So thank God that Pastor Bosse, you know, we had a good meeting, a good gathering together, a good party. Anyway, happy Valentine to everyone. But today, I really had looked forward to this particular program because the person I have, I really kind of have faith in him. I think he's a very promising young man. And, you know, I think God set him up very well by making everything that happened in his life to happen for him to be set free, to be able to follow sound teaching at last. And with this kind of sound teaching, this guy is going to go very far, and I think the sky is the limit for him. And I think he definitely has the potential to take and dominate his generation for Christ. The video that I wanted us to show, will you be able to do that without any inhibition? Because normally you struggle here to do, it will be nice, okay? So, what should I start with? Let's start with the video. Okay, let's start with the video. I'm going to introduce you with a video of yours, okay? I think that's a good way to introduce you today. Mayo, I hope Valentine is not affecting you. You said it was going to be okay. He said, that's the problem with all these holidays they are having. You see? I told you. I said, I hope Valentine is not playing tricks on you. Bring it big now, please. Full screen. That's not the way to do full screen.
Being a businessman in Poland is a big challenge. Being a businessman, immigrant in Poland is a constant struggle, especially having to deal with the public bureaucracy. This takes a lot of time, a lot of effort and energy. All these are sort of challenged, but I believe with God on my side, I can make it.
Like the Polish wise saying goes, Pańskie oko konia tucze, which literally means when you watch over your business, you can grow it. For me, running a business in Poland has been quite adventurous and interesting. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I like to say that it doesn't matter how hard you get hit. What really matters is how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Like Daniel, these are the kind of words I would use to describe him. Strong-willed and a goal-getter. He's not a quitter. We know that it's for our own good. It's to give us a comfortable life, safe place, a away from home, and we are happy about that.
Daniel jest bardzo solidną osobą. W trakcie naszej kilkuletniej współpracy zawsze dotrzymywał ustalonych terminów. To człowiek z zasadami.
Personally, I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles and barriers to get to where I am right now. For you to survive, you need to have faith, willpower, courage, and a thick skin.
Wow. What a video. Let's do it once again. Just play it once again. Play it once again. Let it go to the memory of the people. That's the way. The down one. Yeah, that's the one. All right.
Being a businessman in Poland is a big challenge. Being a businessman immigrant in Poland is a constant struggle, especially having to deal with the public bureaucracy. This takes a lot of time, a lot of effort and energy. All these are sort of challenged, but I believe with God on my side, I can make it.
Like the Polish wise saying goes, pańskie oko konia tucze, which literally means when you watch over your business, you can grow it. For me, running a business in Poland has been quite adventurous and interesting. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I like to say that it doesn't matter how hard you get hit. What really matters is how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Like Daniel, these are the kind of words I would use to describe him: strong-willed and a goal-getter. He's not a quitter. We know that it's for our own good. It's to give us a comfortable life, safe place away from home, and we are happy about that.
Daniel jest bardzo solidną osobą. W trakcie naszej kilkuletniej współpracy zawsze dotrzymywał ustalonych terminów. To człowiek z zasadami.
Personally, I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles and barriers to get to where I am right now. For you to survive, you need to have faith, willpower, courage, and a thick skin.
I just hope his wife will be watching as well today.
Yes.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the hero of our program today. His name is Daniel Omotosho, and he's based in Poland. I think are you in Warsaw or Krakow?
Yes, sir. I'm in Warsaw, the capital city.
He's in the capital city of Poland, which is Warsaw. Now, tell us about who is Daniel Omotosho.
Yeah, thank you very much, DSA, and I welcome the viewers once again. My full name is Tade Daniel Omotosho. I was born in the early 80s in Ilorin, that's the capital of Kwara State. Kwara State is in the northwest of Nigeria. And I grew up in Ilorin town,
So you
where I had all my education.
You should be going to 40 years old now, right?
Yeah, I'm 35, in my mid-30s.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir. So I was born there in Ilorin. I grew up there. I had all my education till my bachelor level in Ilorin. I have a BSc in accounting and finance and a master's degree in professional communication in business, in marketing. I was born and raised in a Christian home. My parents, even though attended different churches, my dad happens to be an elder in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and my mom, she was a deacon in the Baptist Church. So you can imagine I had this mixed upbringing, even though my parents were very liberal during they call it harvest time in December. My mom would join us and, my dad at the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Whenever we had a program at the Baptist Church, my dad also went, and, so it was one happy family, even though everybody was free to choose whichever one they wanted to follow. So my dad is a professor, very well educated, so he was very open-minded and very liberal. you know.
Was your mom as well educated as well as your dad?
Yes, she was almost a principal at the high school, you know. She was a teacher,
vice principal.
Yeah. Yes, she retired as a director, in fact, you know. So she was also very well educated. So I grew up attending both churches, and I think I was involved in both almost at the same time, because Adventists had their service on Saturday. So on Saturday I could go to my dad's church, and then on Sunday I went to the Baptist church, where I was a member of the Royal Ambassador and all this stuff. So I had this upbringing, very well mixed, understanding both doctrines, both churches, and that was basically where I picked up my Christian faith from.
I have a few people who are following on DSA family. One of them, the father is a professor and the mother is a professor also in University of Ibadan. One in University of Ife, one in one in UI Ibadan. Now, they tell me this thing. I don't know if it is true or not. You affirm or you disapprove it.
Yes.
They tell me that even though they have grown up in a family of 2 professors, that just being 1 year on DSA family, that they have learned more on the DSA family than they have learned all their lives. Do you think that were they just trying to flatter me, or they were?
No, that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. I can even tell you that apart from the fact that my parents were academicians and all that, I grew up in church. I was a church boy. I attended church all my life. I became a pastor at a very young age, in fact. And I can tell you, mixing the academic knowledge I have and with the theology knowledge I have, and that's over 20 years. It's incomparable to the things I've learned, listening to you in a space of 3 to 4 years thereabout. So it is absolutely true. It is absolutely true. Your teachings they are empowering, they are liberating, they are edifying, they are inspiring. So that statement is absolutely true. Anybody who is open-minded, who has a brain and listens to you, should be able to testify to the fact that the things you say, they are authentic, they are real, they are practical, they are full of insight, they are full of knowledge. It's only someone with an empty brain will not listen to you. And that's the way I look at it. When I was much younger, I wasn't the best in my class. In fact, I was one of those, probably one of those average students, But, listening to you as somehow, improved my value. Even though after I've left, school a long time ago, but listening to you, there's a way it adds value, to you. There's a way it empowers you, and for me, that is the way it has been. So that statement is absolutely true. Going back to the initial question, yes.
Now, how did you told me a very fascinating story of how you came across me for the first time. Would you like to tell our viewers?
Yes, absolutely, I will. I was visiting a cousin at Obafemi Awolowo University many years ago. It was in the early 2000s. I think I had just left high school then, and I was visiting this cousin, and I got into this postgraduate hall then at OAU, and they were playing a VHS. It was a VHS. There were no CD players then. It was a VHS cassette player. And, they slotted it in, and then it was this African man speaking to a large audience of Europeans, I was impressed. I was intrigued. I was wondering, who is this man? So I picked the name then. It was Adelaja. I picked the name. And somehow in my mind, the name was there. But
you registered the name.
Absolutely. Because it was something I had never seen before. I had never seen an African person, address such a huge crowd of Europeans. For me, it was just impressive. So I registered the name in my brain, and then, fast forward many years after, I came across you again, and then I became more accustomed to you and to your teachings.
But that possibility, that thing you saw that time, did you ever think that you will also end up going to Europe, and that might end up happening to you too?
Absolutely. At that point, I was just about getting to the university, so I never thought I was even ever going to meet that person. I never thought I was even going to travel beyond the shores of Nigeria. I was quite ambitious as a young person, but then I never really thought about the fact that one day, I would leave the shores of Nigeria. So I didn't think about it. I was just impressed. I was just inspired by that clip I saw over 25 years ago. And looking back now, I can see how that a seed can grow. Because since that time the name registered, and then fast forward, I heard about your book, Church Shift, and then fast forward, you became more frequent on social media, and I think it was first through your blog that I reconnected the name again. After seeing your book Church Shifts, I didn't read it though. I think it was just a pastor that mentioned it, and then I became more curious actually, and I think I was Googling, and then I found your blog. Yes, I think I found the blog, and it was the blog. I think the blog became. It was in 2014, 15 thereabout that I came across the blog. I didn't know how long it had been before then, but in 2014, 15 or 13, 14 thereabout, and I think I registered for your mentorship program. And while I was doing that, while I was filling the application, where I was blown off my feet was, where DSA asked a question about if you had an insurance or not. And for me that was quite funny, because where I was coming from, like I said, I grew up in church, so you can imagine I was a part of almost every talk about Winners Chapel. I went to the Bible school in Winners Chapel, talk about Redeem, talk about Commonwealth of Zion Assembly, COSA, talk about Christ Embassy. I was involved in a whole lot of church activity and religion, basically. So from where I was coming from, we were taught to faith everything. You just had to faith everything. Insurance, who cares about having an insurance? Moreover, in Nigeria, insurance is not what people would have. So, when I came across a pastor asking if I had an insurance, and then the other question was if you pay taxes. This was not even tithe, tax, so I knew something was different. Something was different about this person. That blew me up completely. That gave me a perfect picture of the mentor, because all along I've had questions in my heart. I've had unanswered questions growing up as a Christian, but there was nobody to answer it. Every question you asked, they were answered with the Bible, and those questions, those answers were not practical, So when I saw someone that could be so down to earth, that could talk about, things about insurance, about taxes, about investments and things like that, I knew this was it. And at that point also, I was about starting my PhD, and I needed someone I could just relate with, because I've always believed that, whatever education I'm having should solve a problem. I shouldn't just have an education for the sake of having it. So I thought, okay, let me just write to a few of people I regard as experts in certain field. I wrote, some of them were pastors. I think I wrote Tudor Bismarck, one of the Zimbabwean, quite interesting guy as well. I wrote him, wrote a few other people, and you were the only person who replied me. Only DSA replied me, and that for me was, it was just amazing. It was just amazing. So that was part of the connection. That was part of what drew me closer, and I made up my mind that I was going to follow, to the latter.
So all others didn't even reply.
Nobody replied. I wonder even if they they cared about, the people they were pastoring. I can't remember the name.
Not even a letter acknowledging the receipt of your letter.
Not at all. No, I think I wrote even Mensa Otterbill as well. Yeah, Mensa Otterbill, Tudor Bismarck, and 2 or 3 other people, and then you. And the whole idea was I wanted to do a PhD study, and I thought I needed someone who knows about, national transformation, leadership, and things like that. So I just wanted to have an idea, because I had few options. I thought of having a PhD in leadership and the other one in something else. So I just wanted some kind of endorsement. I just wanted someone that could encourage me, but I was blown away when you replied me,
Now, there is a statement you made here. I don't know if you have it written down before you there. It says, there are only very few Africans I admire and believe have a tremendous legacy in the world. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
Nelson Mandela.
Yes, and Dr. Sunday Adelaja.
Okay. If you live in my generation and you have not heard or listened to DSA, you don't exist. Do you have that phrase? Can you repeat that whole statement once again?
Yes, yes.
Back it up.
Yes, this was where I was trying to answer the question how meeting DSA and listening to DSA has changed my life. And what I said here is that there are only few Africans I admire, I don't admire, I've been around so many, I would say so many influential, so to say, we call them influential Africans, even in the religious settings. But the truth is, they are not. They seem to be influential. People praise them. People talk about them.
You're already substantiating it, but I want you to do that later. I want you to first of all repeat the phrase so that people could get it. People could mark it down.
Yes.
Or write it down before you. So I'm going to. Because it's a very profound statement. It's going to enter into history book. This statement. So that's why you repeat it slowly, so that people could get it and write it down. And they have to put your name. That is your quotation.
Yes, sir. All right, sir. Yes, there are only few Africans I admire and believe have had a tremendous legacy in the world. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Dr. Sunday Adelaja. If you live in my generation and you have not heard or listened to Dr. Sunday Adelaja, you don't exist.
That is a very, very strong something. I would like you to repeat it again. People are actually asking you to repeat it again. Yeah.
Yes, this is what I said. There are only few Africans I admire and believe have had a tremendous legacy in the world. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Dr. Sunday Adelaja. If you live in my generation and you have not heard or listened to Dr. Sunday Adelaja, you don't exist. You don't exist. Because the kind of, when I read about DSA, especially the Orange Revolution, many people don't know about this, and I think that's one of the setbacks we have as Africans, as Nigerians. We don't know how to do research. We don't even ask questions. We don't even know how to ask questions. Martin Luther once said, he said, in school, it's more important to know the answer. But in life, it is much more important to know how to ask questions. And this is one of the problems we have. And that's why we don't ask even our church leaders questions, because that's fundamentally what our culture has taught us. Respect, loyalty. Don't ask questions. Just take it the way it is. So for me, when I look at DSA, I see him as someone who has made a tremendous impact in the world. I was doing a research about Orange Revolution, and I found a whole lot of things. I think I will encourage people to go back and look at their history books and do a few research about Orange Revolution. And that was it wasn't a local event. It wasn't an Ukrainian event. It wasn't an Eastern Europe event. It was a global event. It was a global event. It was something that CNN reported it. Almost everywhere it was talked about. So for me, I see DSA as one of the living Martin Luther. I see DSA as one of the living Nelson Mandela. And I pity a lot of people. Sir, DSA, I just got back from Nigeria a week ago, and I was pained when I talk to people, and I came actually with the excitement that, see the newfound revelation. I came with this excitement of sharing some of the things I've learned. But the moment people heard, you are a protege of DSA, you follow DSA, you listen to DSA, they see things I share on my wall, the attack began. And it pained me so much that why do people hate the truth? Why are people so much, afraid and why is it that people don't want to listen to the truth? It pained me so much that even when I talked with my own friends, with my own siblings, they couldn't understand. They couldn't understand. And I keep telling them that just wait and see. This is not a war. It's not a battle. I don't even want to use the word revolution. I use the word transformation. It's a generational transformation. So what DSA is doing is something that it is going to be another historic event that very soon, it might take some time, but I believe that, as we've started, we would get there. And in legacy, a generation would be, it reminds me of that scripture when the Bible says, you are the joy of many generations and eternal excellence. This is who DSA is. And this is what God has sent him to do. Maybe not everybody will be like DSA. Not everybody will be as bold as DSA. But to tell you the truth, what DSA is doing is a legacy. It's a tremendous one. And the world will register it.
Can you break down the statement? You made that statement and, phrase by phrase and justify it. The statement you just made, the Martin Luther and Mandela and Sunday Adelaja and the whole thing. And just, part by part and explain in bits.
You see, why I said this is because there are a few Africans that I admire.
Take a bit and explain.
Yes.
Just like you're doing now.
Yes. There are a few Africans I admire, and the ones I admire are not just the ones that are ordinary. They are people that they are personalities. They are heroes. They are people who impacted their world. They are people who, they for example, Martin Luther, he died, fighting for a generation. And look at the freedom that the Americans enjoy today. Not even only Americans. Look at the black race, in fact. So I admire people like that, people who live their life for others. And that's the way I look at DSA. DSA is not living for himself. He says something sometimes and I'm like, wow. There was a time DSA made a statement, I'm not sure if I can quote that correctly. He said, you cannot kill a dead man because he sees himself already dead. So he's not afraid of dying. He's not afraid of sickness. And I think that is the level we all need to get to. Just like Apostle Paul said, he said, for me to die, is Christ, is gain, sorry. And for me to live is Christ. You see? So people that I admire, Africans that I admire, are people that have made a difference in their world. There are not so many of them that I know, but the ones I know, Nelson Mandela is one of them, Martin Luther is one of them, and DSA is one of them. And this is why I admire them, because they have made tremendous legacy. They have left a legacy. They didn't just come and live like trees or they didn't just come and acquire private jets and huge congregation. You know, they didn't just come and just, you know, build empires. But they affected their world. They changed their world. They lived for humanity. They left a legacy. You know, so if you live in my generation and you have not taken time to listen to DSA, you don't exist, because the things DSA teaches, they are life transforming. I'm still going to talk later on about some of my own personal testimonies. They are life transforming. They are so insightful. They are deep principles. You know, things that sometimes, you know, I feel DSA should be called a professor. Now, the problem will now be which specialization, because, you know, he's more or less so deep in almost everything. You know, I'm still going to talk about that later. While I was growing up as a Christian, I listened to so many kinds of people, because I felt this person was a specialist in this. So when it comes to faith, I'm going to listen to this. When it comes to finances, I'm going to listen to this. But DSA is all encompassing. You know, DSA is not a specialist in one. You know, so I believe DSA's teachings are empowering, and that's why I said if you have not listened to him, if you have not met him, if you have not heard about him, then you don't exist. In fact, there is a quotation that says that there's a new subject called quantum physics, which talks about the fact that if you are not in a field where information is being shared, where information is being exchanged, you don't exist. And that's the way I see it. DSA's teachings are very informative. They are liberating. You know, when I started listening to you, when I started listening to DSA, I had to start unlearning. Because I knew so many things that were just wrong. So many things they were just bunch of religious teachings. I mean, I'm going to talk about that later too. I was a pastor for a few years, and I was teaching those things. You know, but when I started listening to DSA, I realized that, you know, the church is not the kingdom. Why do we keep promoting church? Why do we want to keep people as slaves in church? Why do we keep starting mushroom churches that have no impact? You know, so that's why I said if you live in my generation and you are not listening to DSA, or you have not heard about him, you really need to go back. You really need to go back. You know, because some of the things DSA is teaching now, people don't get it. But these are things that some of these things will be needed in 50 years' time, in 100, because people are still backwards. A lot of people are still behind. So they will have to catch up. And that's why I like it when DSA says he's living for 300 years ahead. He's living for the future. You know? So if you don't know DSA, if you don't listen to him, you really need to go back in time and take your time and listen to DSA. So informative, so empowering, so liberating. It's eye-opening. It's eye-opening. And that's it for me. It has changed my life.
Two things. One, this is just having to do with it. I would like you to sit up straight so that your head goes up more. Yeah, that way.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Number two,
yes.
You know, many people have heard of DSA. But what they know is there is a Nigerian that is in Russia that has a big church. That's all they know. They've never really tried to listen. So is that the kind of people you are talking about? They say they've not heard of DSA. Or because when people begin to listen really to the teaching, not just but in continuously, it's totally different than just saying there's a Nigerian there in Russia. What is the difference between the two?
Yes, in fact, there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. Now, the kind of listening I'm talking to is not even just listening with your ears. Oh, 2 minutes clip, 3 minutes clip. No, I'm talking about intensified listening, being intense in listening to what DSA is teaching. Now, it doesn't end there. In fact, if you don't practice what you are listening to, you've not been listening. Because re-listening itself is draining. You have to listen to the point where you are able to do what you are hearing. And that's what I'm talking about. So listening just to say, okay, I'm listening to 3-4 messages, it doesn't, that's where it starts from. Yes, you need to start from there. You need to listen to some of these messages. But the real listening and knowing DSA that I'm talking about has to do with really understanding what he's saying, comprehending what he's saying, and being able to replicate and being able to do what he's saying. That's where I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So listening to DSA really has to do with, being intense in listening to him and being able to do what you are learning from DSA.
Now, you are very, very academic and very, very, very descriptive in your writing, because a lot of the things you have that I've read that you wrote, they are quite memorable. Almost all your phrases, are loaded, more like the way I talk. Now, there is a statement you made there. Once I was blind, but now I see. Once I was ignorant, but now I know better.
Yes, sir.
Can you remember that phrase?
Yes, absolutely. That was when I talking about before I started listening to DSA, what my life was about. Yes, I think I started listening to DSA more in 2015 thereabouts, and as at that time I was a pastor. I was a parish pastor. You know what they call parish pastor, I was a parish pastor at the Redeemed Christian Church of God in Warsaw, Poland. And, I was
Sorry, before you go ahead, can you repeat? People want you to repeat your name for them.
Yes, my name is Tade Daniel Omotosho. Tade Daniel Omotosho. Yes. So, as I was saying, I was a parish pastor in one of the Redeemed Christian Church of God in Warsaw, Poland. I thought that was all the kingdom was all about, because we were told to promote church. We were told to, in fact, the motivation, the drive then was to start parishes, to start smaller, small churches. That was the drive, So, you can imagine growing up as a young pastor. Sometimes I look back and I tell my wife, thank God for DSA. You know why I'm saying this? My whole dream then was to, just to have a church, a big church, a mega church, and be like one of those mega pastors and go to conferences and, meet Kenneth Copeland and have him lay hands on me. That was the drive. That was the motivation. Because of what we were taught, what we were told, So we're busy promoting church. We were busy promoting church activities, So that was why I said once I was blind. Now, let me tell you how my schedule looked like a few years ago. I was going to attend morning service. I was going to attend evening service on Tuesday. That on Sunday. On Tuesday, I was going to go to a pastor's vigil. Tuesday, second day of the week. So you can imagine Wednesday morning, I have clients I need to deal with, and I'm feeling sleepy in meetings. And then on Thursday, we were going to have Bible study. And then on Friday, we could have one power night or, some strange programs. You can imagine still in Europe. And then on Saturday, we could have workers' meeting. And then on Sunday. So I was busy doing church. And for me, that was it. I mean, I thought I was busy serving God. I thought serving God was all about that, just going to church. But then when I started to, I've actually had questions in my heart. And thank God I came across DSA. So those questions were answered. I wasn't comfortable with it. I knew something was wrong, but you couldn't ask questions. It was like being a slave. At that time, I even had, because at some point, I wasn't comfortable with it. So I was fighting it. I was not happy with it. I was trying to break the borders and the barriers and the limits. At that point, you know what my senior pastor did? He now gave me a book on loyalty. Very demonic book. Very, very demonic book. Yes, he gave me that book. In fact, I didn't even read it. I didn't read it. He wanted me to read it. He showed me the book, but I didn't read it. So what we were taught then, and what I had in my head was, okay, I was going to have a mega church, a big church. So, sometimes we were all the things we were doing was just to bring people to church. And keep them there. To tell you the truth, that's why I said once I was blind, now I see. Then I didn't even know what giving was. I was giving my tithe. I was doing those things religiously. I had questions in my heart. If I was going to church and I had money on me, my tithe on me, if I saw someone on the road that needed money, I was not going to give that money out. I would rather take it to church. I was that religious. If I was driving to church and I saw accident victims on the way, I was not going to stop because I would be late for service. But when I started listening, yes, because that was it. It was just religion. Until I listened to DSA, and DSA started talking about, God is in people. God is in people. And DSA told the story of the Good Samaritan, how that the priest was running to church, but then he had left. He thought he was going to meet God in the building in the church, but he had just left God beside the road. And that was where I knew, and thank God all the while I was there as a pastor, I had been listening to you. I had been having, some unrest in my spirit. I just knew something was wrong. Something was fundamentally wrong. So that was where I was searching for the truth. And I think that's it. If you really are diligent seeking for the truth, you will find it. You will find it. And I think for me, that was it. I was searching for the truth, and I found it.
Now, there are other statements, very other profound statements. Or you want to continue first?
Yes, well, I just wanted to say, before then, I also had this, I was an itinerant listener.
That's what I wanted to hear. That is because it's a profound statement. Can you read that passage? I had several preachers, that whole paragraph. Can you read it? Because that's profound for people to hear, because it's well written. I don't want you to just say it, but I want you to read it out, and then later on you explain it to us.
Yes, I'm going to read that. I said here that I had several preachers I listened to, and they were mostly pastors. Now, I saw them as experts. For example, if I wanted to listen to faith, I'll listen to Kenneth Hagin, or Kenneth Copeland, or Bishop Oyedepo, etc. If I wanted to listen to grace, well, I'll pick up Joseph Prince. If I wanted some motivation, some hope, I'll pick up T.D. Jakes or Joel Austin. Or if I want some screaming and hollering, I'll pick up Paula De Farasi.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if I wanted a very, strategic guy, a very 21st century pastor, I'll listen to Pastor Biodun Fatoyibo from Koza, and the likes. So I wanted to hear the truth if I wanted the truth on national transformation, I'll listen to, Tony Bakari. If I wanted to hear about the kingdom and things like that, I'll listen to Miles Muro. So I was an expert in itinerant listening. That's what I call it, listening, listening from one preacher to the other. Now, I don't mean that there is nothing to learn from these men. In their own capacity, they are there. But now when I listen to DSA, I rarely want to listen to anybody else. I rarely want to listen to anybody else. Because your teachings are not just like...
DSAs, keep it at DSAs. DSA's teachings. So now, explain to us this whole thing you have said, because it's like you are a spiritual tourist. But this, and a lot of people are still living their life like this, just like you are talking about here. So, I mean, this is just like, there are many people, almost everybody in Christendom do this. So they go and listen to all kinds of people and just gather, and then they are not going anywhere. So why did you stop listening? These are big men. Why? Because it's not only you have heard saying this. There is a brother Rick in London, and many others who said the same thing. They said they had, some of them will say, I have 5 mentors, I have 10 mentors, I have 2 mentors, I have 3 mentors. But now I don't listen to anybody. I can't listen to anybody again after listening. So these men are big men. Kenneth Hagin, Kenneth Copeland, Oyedepo, T.D. James, Joel Austin, Ade Farase, Fato Yibo, all those people, Miles Moreau. They are great guys. Why should you now drop them just because you started listening to something DSA? So, but explain to me, what is even the psychology behind Christians going all around like that? What is happening?
Yes. I think it's very simple. Most of these messages, I mean, it's not like, okay, they are bad or whatever. Now, these messages, as far as I'm concerned, that's my own perspective. They are not. They are very, egocentric based.
Okay. Yeah.
Very egocentric based. It is about you. God prospering you. It is not about the kingdom in most cases. They are very consumerism based. But the difference is this:
transactional relationship with God.
Transactional, yes. They were more of, when you sow a seed, this is what God will do for you. All right? That was the angle they came from. I didn't mention Mike Murdoch. Yes, Mike Murdoch actually is one of those guys I used to listen to. But when I listen to DSA, this is the difference. DSA's message is based simply on the truth. It is simply based on the truth. DSA doesn't talk about, it doesn't talk about some abstract things. You talk about how we can apply the kingdom principle to our Christian walk, to everyday walk. Okay, how you can carry the kingdom to your workplace. So for me, one of your messages that I listened to that really touched me, one of DS's messages that I listened to that really touched me, or that really gave me a very different perspective, was your message on adding value. I think it was something about saviors out of Mount Zion or something connected with that series. Yeah, that series. And you were talking about how we need to know God first and foremost, and then how we need to also be skillful in our sphere of influence. Like I said earlier, most of these guys come from the angle of just faith everything. Just faith everything. Just faith it, and that's it. In fact, sometimes they were telling us, fake it until you make it. That's the way they put it. You have to fake it until you make it, or you faith it until you make it. So most of these messages were not based on sound, kingdom principles. You hear things like 1 day of favor is better than 10 days of labor. And then I thought labor was a bad thing. I thought it was bad. Yes, until I started hearing about the dignity of labor. Until I bought the book, Why You Must Urgently Become a Workaholic. These things are completely missing from most of these guys I had talked about. So for me, I don't listen to them so much anymore, because even to catch up with some of DSA's teaching, because every day something new comes up. Every day something new comes up. Every day there's a new revelation. So to catch up, it's and I'm so excited. I'm so glad that, every single day I have something to look up to. So I began gradually to drop religion. I began to unlearn. For me, last year was a year that I had to unlearn. It was my year of unlearning. I started to unlearn.
Detox.
I started to unlearn.
The year of detoxification.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was completely detoxing, unlearning. Even as a pastor, you know, I now realize so many things that we were taught that were not just kingdom oriented. They were just selfish. You know, the church I belonged to at that time, where I knew something was wrong, first and foremost was, you know, even the motto of the church itself, the slogan of the church. There was a day I confronted my pastor then. I was like, what is our vision as a church? What are we called to do as a church? You know what the guy told me? He said, well, our vision is to take people to heaven. He said, our vision is to take people to heaven. I was like, really? So if that was the reason why Jesus...
So Jesus has not taken them to heaven yet. He has not died yet.
In fact, so I began to think, if that was the only reason why Jesus came, then the day he got born again, he should kill all of us and we'll go to heaven. But there was something that needed to be done. His kingdom had to be brought to the earth. And that was what Jesus brought. And we, as his ambassadors, we have to, you know, to establish his kingdom in our spheres of influence. So, you know, that was where I knew something was fundamentally wrong. I had so many questions in my heart, they could not answer them. You know, so I realized that I needed to have a change. I needed to repent. I needed to be born again. And that was my journey, you know, to resigning as a pastor. Because, you know what I realized? They had this idea of, you know, parish. And I thought to myself, God is not interested in a parish. He's interested in the world. At that point, I told myself, I don't need a parish. The world is my parish. The earth is my parish. My sphere of influence is my parish. I don't need a parish again. I don't need a church building again. God is not so much interested in those things. You know, until I started listening to DSA, I thought the kingdom was the church. But then I realized that the church is only a platform, is only a tool that was supposed to be used in establishing the kingdom. A place where people are empowered and released. You know, it would interest you, DSA. When I got to Nigeria, I was telling people about this thing. That see, we don't need so many churches in Nigeria anymore. What we need is libraries, laboratory, research centers. We already have churches. And those were one of the questions I had in my heart. How could we be so religious as a country, as a people, and yet culture is not being influenced? The society is not changing. So what is the proof that we have churches? What is the proof? So what we have are no longer churches in Nigeria. They are just religious centers. So I began to tell people about this thing, that I wouldn't start a church if I had the possibility. I would rather start centers. Maybe on Sunday, whoever likes can turn it into a church. But Monday to Friday, it will be a center, empowering people, teaching them the kingdom principles. You know, Jesus never told the disciples, look at the Great Commission. He never said, go and start a church. Jesus said, go. That when I began to understand that word, it completely changed my mindset. Jesus said, go. G-O. That is the 2/3 of his name. G-O-D. And he said, G-O. Go. Go. He didn't say sit. So we are not meant, you know, to keep people sitting down in the churches. They are meant to be out there impacting their spheres of influence. So when I tell people in Nigeria these things, you know, they tell me, okay, after you get these disciples, because, okay, you say, Jesus said, go and make disciples. Okay, after you make these disciples, where would you gather them? And I'm like, you're still talking about gathering?
Slaves.
God is not interested in any gathering.
Slave master mentality.
Slave. God is not interested in gathering. He's interested in scattering them. He's interested in scattering them. Let them go everywhere. Like yeast, like seeds, like mustard seeds, like yeast. Let them be everywhere. Let them influence the earth. Let them establish the kingdom everywhere. You know? So I think the problem in Nigeria is more, you know, I just got back last week and I still cannot recover from my, you know, people can't think straight again. People can't even be analytical again. And I think it's more or less an anthropological problem, more of a cultural problem coming into the way we understand religion and faith. So I think the challenge we have before us, DSA, is a cultural challenge. A generation would have to be reprogrammed. A generation, the culture of a whole generation would have to be changed. You know, people cannot even, I can't have an intellectual discussion with some of the people I met in Nigeria because they can't just understand it. You know, everybody has an entitlement mentality. Oh, the government is irresponsible. The government should fix this. Yes, we know the government is not responsible. But the scripture already gives us the goal. It says, gross darkness shall be upon the people. In Isaiah, gross darkness, but upon you the light of God will come. So how can we be the light if there is no darkness? No wonder Jesus said, you are the light of the world. You are not the light of the church. You are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. So what is happening in Nigeria is the greatest opportunity for the church to rise up. I tell people, what are we doing with a 100-kilometer, 3-kilometer long auditorium, a 100-kilometer capacity building? What are we doing with it? People tell me, the guy has a vision. What kind of vision is that? That is not kingdom. As far as I'm concerned, do you think God lives in those buildings? Do you think God lives in that building? And I was asking someone, which one will make God more happier? That we can use the budget for that to reduce the mortality rate in Nigeria. Just last week, a friend of mine, his wife died during childbirth. His wife died during childbirth. So which one do you think will make God more happy? Building a 3-kilometer long church or reducing the mortality rate of Nigeria just by 1%? And this is what people cannot even fathom in Nigeria. They can't just understand it. So that's why I said we have a cultural challenge ahead of us. You know, the religion in Nigeria is something else. Is something else. And I think it will take a generation. But thank God that we have started. We've started already. And
so
we'll keep marching on.
If you say you will have all those churches in Nigeria, but you saw them, all those GOs, they are still alive in that country. So what are they teaching that is not affecting the country? Why is that? Do you now understand why all their teachers, all their churches, the more churches they have, the worse the economy becomes. The more teachings they do, the more the country becomes. Why? So can you now give me an explanation or give Nigerians explanation why that is?
Well, first and foremost, I think, you know, a blind man cannot lead another blind man. That's just imperative. You know, sometimes I sit down and I'm like, is it intentional or these guys don't truly know? You know, but of course sometimes I think maybe also they are not sound. And that's what is paining me, that why can't these guys just be humble enough to say, okay, I think somebody out there has somebody out there he's been tested, he's been proven, he has experience, he has done this thing. So you find out that most of the teachings in those churches, they are like I said earlier, they are very, very consumerism based. They are transactional. They are egocentric based. And there is no way you can impact. There's no way, because, it's just like a slave master feeding slaves. The slave would always be slaves. The master would just keep getting fat and fat and fat. Slaves are powerless. Slaves can not do anything. So the whole summary is that, the teachings are not empowering. Of course, we know there are remnants. DSA has always talked about that also. But the remnants are few compared to the large majority of the lost sheep.
Okay, one of the names that you mentioned here, who you say you used to listen to,
yes.
I don't know the name of the church. I think it's Fatoyinbo is his name.
Yes.
Yeah, people talk about him going to Dubai on some sheep, taking 200 people or 2,000 people to go and celebrate his birthday, and that the church is everything is posh. They are spending $100,000 just to hold a service. So what is that rubbish when people cannot eat in a country? What is that nonsense about being posh, about making everything aircon, about the church being, what is that? Where did we get those crazy ideas coming from? Why should being posh or packaging more expensive than human life that Jesus died for, gave his life for? What is wrong with our people? And somebody is following that guy. And young ministers now, I heard in Nigeria, want to be like him. Can you believe it?
To tell you the truth, DSA, I was a part of this ministry before I left Nigeria. So in fact, when I was leaving, I'm still connected, but I'll say this with all humility. It might seem to have a good heart, but I think misplaced priority and the pressure of belonging to a carcass. You know the way it is in Nigeria. That's why I keep mentioning culture. In Nigerian churches now, you have to belong to a certain group. Is either you are part of the, Ashimolowo's group, Bishop Oyedepo, or you are part of the other, Redeem, MFM, and you have to belong. So I think it is a kind of culture that has been created. Now, when I was saying this in Nigeria, that some of these things these guys do, they are excess, they are not necessary, they are misplaced priority. People tell me, but you see, they are also feeding the poor. But I'm like, to what extent? What is the percentage of people that they transform in terms of community development and all that? It is so little compared to the kind of resources they have. So I think it's a misplaced priority, and also I think it's more of ego thing. It's because of their ego and things like that. So that's the way I see it. But more also, it's a cultural thing, very cultural thing in Nigeria. Almost every preacher in Nigeria wants to impress. They want to have a beautiful auditorium, with lightnings and all those kind of things. So when did those kind of things become indicators of the kingdom? How can those kind of trivial things? Do you know Jesus never had a building? Yes, sir.
Do you know Apostle Paul never had a building?
Yes, sir.
In fact, none of the disciples had a building.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
when
Yes,
are
sir.
those kind of trivial, very trivial things? So you want to tell me that if you go to America or in Europe here, your university alone, the university where you teach, see the kind of buildings they have. None of the churches in Nigeria have those kind of buildings. Any building, any school, any high school in Europe here, there are buildings. Anybody can have buildings. You want to tell me how many buildings are all these companies having? All these hotels. They are unbelievers who are having them. So does that make them spiritual?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, we all know that God doesn't live in those buildings. God lives in people. God, like you said, like DSA said, Jesus never had the church, and he never even asked us to build one. So the truth is, it is just an ego thing. For example, look at the church House on the Rock. That church was built with billions. It is usually called the Metropolitan Church. Metropolitan Church. That's the way it's been called. It was built with billions. When they were opening it, Tony Blair came all the way from the UK to do the opening ceremony. So this is the priority that most of our church leaders are placed over the lives of people, over kingdom. So to tell you the truth, DSA, I was almost caught in that web too when I was a parish pastor. But that's why I said once I was blind, but now I know better. Now I know better. So I think it is also ignorance of the truth. Ignorance of the truth. Ignorance of the truth. It is also ego, the pressure of, the largest church, the most beautiful auditorium, our church is the top of the town, So I think those are the problems. Misplaced priorities, simply misplaced priority. That's it. And until they get to encounter the truth, I'm afraid that the Nigerian church might just, be caught in that web.
You gave a list here of some, okay, the question was, how has your life changed since following DSA stations? Then you gave some list of things that, can you explain those ones to us, one by one?
Yes, I'll start with the first one. Listening to DSA for me has made me realize that, life is predictable. Life is predictable. God has set in place principles for us to follow, and if we operate by those principles, if we abide by them, in fact, whether you're a Christian or not, if you follow the principle that God has set in place, you will get results. So for me, I've come to understand that life is very much predictable. More also the fact that you are a Christian or we are Christians, we have an advantage.
So you mean that maybe the ignorance of this truth is what is making all of Nigeria go and spend their lives in churches, not knowing that life is already laid out by God. All the rules are already there. Everything is already laid out for them to be successful. They don't need to go to God to ask for anything or beg or fast or pray or even be Christian or at all for them to make it in life. Life is already laid out. Life is predictable. But in Nigeria, it's like everybody is storming the church, looking for the bishops, looking for the GOs, looking for the anointing, just to be able to make it in life. What? Oh,
yes.
I am broken. This one truth alone.
It's so painful. It's so painful, sincerely. And I think it is also a bit of the kind of environment that has been created. Again, back to culture. Now, I'll tell you this. I was in Nigeria last week, and I could observe it, that people don't understand it, that life is predictable. People don't. So because also of the situation we have in Nigeria, maybe also quite specific. Now, you can imagine how that the roads on Nigeria, the Nigerian roads are very unsafe. Very unsafe. People die every day. There are trailers on the road, there are ditches on the road, and people die. So a typical Nigerian family that wants to set out on a journey will pray a prayer like this: Lord, we come against every blood-sucking demon.
No.
Yes, that's a very typical, I can tell you, that is a very typical Nigerian prayer.
What? Blood?
We come against every blood-sucking demon on the road.
Is the name of the demon?
No, well, that's what they call it. They feel there are blood-sucking demons on the road.
No, you are not serious. Are you serious?
I'm so serious about it. It's a normal prayer. We come against, we bind, we lose, we come against every blood-sucking demon on the road. So you see, it's a very deeply rooted. We've been fed with the wrong stuff. we've been completely fed with the wrong stuff. Fine, we understand that the infrastructures are not available, but the church leaders are now capitalizing on the absence of infrastructure, to create a mindset for the people. So when you are traveling, you are conscious of the fact that there are demons on the road. But guess what? Those demons are the ditches and the trailers. So you find out that, what we have in Nigeria is, to some extent, it's an environmental problem in the sense that a culture has been built.
It is the churches that are building this culture, because that is paranoia.
Yeah.
If you say a blood-sucking what do you call
demon,
blood-sucking demon in the road,
demon.
So that is a paranoia. That is, churches are making people to be paranoid. That is being paranoid. Because the reason I will say it is not culture, it is church, is because the Muslims, I'm sure the Muslims don't know that demon. And because we have Muslims in Nigeria too, and maybe even 50% are Muslims, and they don't pray those, they don't even cast demons out. They don't even know about it. So it is the pastors who have created this evil, paranoid culture.
Yes. Why I was linking that with the environment and culture is the fact that, there's this principle about environment which DSA has also taught that, there's a way we all get programmed to certain way of thinking, to certain mindset. You see, when your observation becomes your reality, so you have observation, imitation, and repetition. By the time you start observing something, you start to imitate it, then you start to repeat it, and that becomes you. It becomes your mindset. So in Nigeria now, because of the environment, the culture. Now I'm not talking about culture as a base, but I'm talking about culture in terms of what has been created, what has been popularly accepted, and
the environment, yeah.
Yes, the environment. Yes. So that has also that is also playing a huge role. If we can succeed in changing the environment, of course, the people would have to be changed first.
Their value system.
Their value system. The value system, the mindset. Because there's a connection between what people are seeing, what people are hearing, and how they are behaving. So the challenge we're having is, if we change the environment and the people don't change, we might not succeed yet. If we change the people and the environment don't change, we might not succeed. So the ideal situation is to make sure that as we imbibe the new value system, it is being reflected in the environment. So as people begin to
we have to create a culture and an environment of life is predictable. To go by your first point.
Absolutely, yes. We need to create that environment, and people will become less conscious of this kind of, fear.
Maybe they are even conscious of they will be more conscious of the road rather than the demons.
Absolutely.
They will be more realistic. They will be more realistic rather than being fictitious.
Definitely. So people don't even know what that is all about when you say life is predictable. People say in Nigeria, your life is in the hands of God.
Are you serious?
They say your life is in the But you see, life is predictable. There are principles God has put in place. DSA said something one day that really made this point sink. DSA was given an example of plants. Look at how plants grow. They don't fast, they don't pray. But God has put in place, this nature, principle of nature, seasons, time and seasons, water, seed, and plants grow. You see, so the same it is for human being. God has blessed the earth. He has blessed the universe. But this is what Nigerians don't understand. And this is what I'm telling you now is what they will tell you. They say, oh, the environment is different here. You see? So the second thing,
cap of the first point first, cap it up.
Yes. So the first point, if we follow the principles that God has set in place, these are kingdom principles, we would get results. Dignity there is dignity in labor. And that's one of the things. They deceived us. They tell us 1 day of favor is better than 10 days of labor. So we will keep hoping for miracles that hardly happens. We'll keep hoping for miracles instead of working hard, instead of being creative, instead of being innovative, instead of creating opportunities for yourself. We'll keep waiting for miracles, forgetting that there is dignity in labor, that even God himself works hard. We now talk down working hard. So principles, God has set in place principles. If we follow those principles, we will get results. We will get results. No matter how hard you fast and pray, go to church Monday to Friday, and if you don't put those principles in place, you can never get results. And this is why people are frustrated with Christianity, because they don't teach them principles. They don't teach them principles. They teach them only superficial things. And that's why a lot of Christians don't get results, because they don't know the principles to operate in. So life is predictable. Life is based on principles, not on miracles. God doesn't want us to live on miracles. He wants us to live based on principles. And to tell you the truth, DSA, I've lived in Poland for about 10 years or 11 years thereabout. And I keep learning. Some of the principles you're teaching, there are some of the things that I'm putting to work in my life right now. And I can tell you testimonies of how God is elevating me to stand before mayors, to work with mayors, to be advisor to mayors. And this is what God can do. I don't even need to be a Christian to be able to do that. But the fact that I'm a Christian gives me more advantage. See, so life is very predictable. That's one of the first things, I've learned, listening to DSA. Now, I'll move on to number 2. Point 2. Now, listening to DSA for me has answered so many questions. So many questions, Like I said, I've always wondered why, Africa is so blessed with natural resources. We have so many churches, we have so many so-called big men of God, but we are one of the poorest countries. Mayowa was saying yesterday that Nigeria is already overtaking India. We're on the way to be the poorest nation in the world. Isn't that a shame on us, where we have the richest pastors in the world? Isn't that a shame? And we are the poor. So what are they doing? So they are using all their spirituality to amass wealth. Few days ago, they were having a prayer, praying for the nation. Which nation was built based on prayer? You see, when you talk like this, people think you've lost it. But this is just reality. This is just reality. How I wish that the meeting they had a few days ago will be to discuss how they will sell their private jets and stop their building projects and use those funds, those money to create jobs for people, to start industries, to develop the infrastructure. Those are the things we need. They don't even know how that will impact the kingdom. So they think only having churches is the way you can impact the kingdom. You see? So for me, I have so many questions in my heart, but listening to DSA, I just got answers. So I realized that, that there's so much religion and paganism in Africa. So much religion and paganism, whereby we use God. We use God. And our faith is completely focused on consumerism and egocentric. Despite the environmental condition, we can still stand on the truth and preach the gospel truth without being egocentric and without, transactional kind of gospel. Because this is what people will say in Nigeria. This is how they will counter the argument. They will say, well, the government is irresponsible, so people would have to run to church. People would have to believe God for electricity. They would have to believe God for good roads. They would have to believe God for for their own water, their own security, because the environmental factor, plays, because the government is irresponsible. But the truth is, we still don't need, those are not the things we need God for. We can't, our faith can't be based on those things. We can't relate with God, putting in mind that what we need Him for is to provide those things. No, those things are human, those things are what humans can provide. So listening to DSA, for me, it has answered so many questions. And that's why for me now, I am so much passionate about going back to Nigeria. I'm so much passionate about, because, this is what people will say. They'll say, oh, you're sitting down in Poland there and you're talking. But the time will come. I'm coming. We're coming back to Nigeria. We're coming to do what God has put in our hearts. I'm going to talk about my kingdom project, before the end of the program. So I'm going to move on to Kingdom Fruits 3. And I've actually talked about that a little bit as well. Listening to DSA, I've come to understand that the church is not the kingdom. And that was where I learned, when I read your book, Kingdom Driven Life. This is a book. If you're passionate about the kingdom, you need to read this book. I understand that the church is not the kingdom. The church is not the kingdom. The church is just a platform that is supposed to, be used to establish the kingdom. But one of the things in Nigeria is that church has even become more important, more popular than the kingdom. And that ought not to be. So I understand that, we need to promote the kingdom, but not church. Now, very quickly, let me move on to number 4. One of the things I also learned listening to DSA is that as Christians, as believers, as kingdom people, we need to develop our minds. It's not enough just to read the Bible. Once I said that in church, and my pastor almost crucified me for saying that. Yes, I said, I was telling my folks then in church that you can't read only the Bible. You can't read only the Bible. You can't. There are things God will not even tell you because He has already told someone and the person has written it in a book. So all you need to do is get the book and read it. You see? At that point, I even had books I recommend for the people that attended my parish then. Books every month. You need to read a book. You need to develop your mind. You can't read, like DSA will say, you can't read the Bible and invent a rocket. You can't. You need to develop yourself. So from listening to DSA, I understood the power of value. The value of your mind, your brain. There's so much potential. There's so much capacity. Reading the book, The Next Generation of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, I learned a lot about conversion from that book. And that's the way I live my life now. I convert everything. And I found out that there is a return on time. There is a return on energy. So you can't, people talk about time management. There's nothing like time management. In the university where I lecture now, there's a course I teach called self-management. And one of the topics under it is time management. But I have to tell my students that, listen, there is nothing like time management. You can't manage time. What you can do is manage yourself, or at best, convert the time into something tangible. And you see why DSA's teaching is so different. Those other preachers, they don't talk about conversion. We're not even talking about time conversion now. We're talking about converting your spiritual experiences. You go to church, you have worship, you have communion, you have praise, you have all sorts of religious activity without conversion. So we were only taught to be religious. And that's why I say I don't listen much to those guys anymore. Their teachings they're okay, they are good for whoever wants to listen to it, but with the level of truth I'm exposed to now, I'm not on that level.
They all need to come and listen. They all need to come and listen to you now.
Absolutely.
what you know now, it doesn't
Yes, sir.
matter who they are, Christians or unbelievers. Maybe it's less than 1% of the whole world that knows what you know right now.
Absolutely.
Either they are Christians or they are
Absolutely.
not Christians, either they are billionaires or they are whatever. Less than 1% of the world knows what you know now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for me now, listening to DSA has given me value. So now, I don't, back then I cared so much about using brand names. But then I realized that it's simply because even when I look at DSA and I look at his lifestyle, I've been around him, I've seen him, I see what he wears. DSA doesn't care so much about brand. He brings the value to the brand. Some people draw the map, some people read the map. Some people determine the fashion, while some people are crazy about wearing the fashion. And that is what DSA teaches. Being part of the movers and shakers, being the trailblazer, being the barrier breakers, and sincerely listening to you, watching you, looking at your lifestyle is so empowering. Maybe a lot of people don't know this, but let me say it before I forget. I was in Ukraine last year, right from the airport, when they picked us up. Alex picked us up. Right from when I saw the car that was picking us up, I knew this was just different. Now, in Nigeria, most GOs, their car comes with a private number. People don't know this. Now, let me say this. Listen carefully. Their car comes with a private number. You could see maybe Bishop 1 or GO1 or whatever name it comes with. When I saw DSA's car, this wasn't even this was not a Range Rover. It was just a simple car with a private number. Because of my knowledge of Polish language, it's very similar to Ukraine and Russia, so I could read it. It was written Żyje Bóg. No, in Poland, we would say Bóg żyje, which means God lives. And I know it means the same. The plate number of the car was God lives. And on the car was a portrait, was a picture of Jesus shedding the blood. And there were some things written there. And I knew, yes, this is coming from the heart of a man that loves God, a man that wants to promote the kingdom, not himself. So I get so much angry when people say, oh, DSA wants to come to Nigeria to start a church. DSA wants to get members. And I'm like, oh, these guys are illiterate. These guys don't even know what is happening. This is someone that promotes the kingdom. An average person would rather have a car with his name on it. That car drives around Ukraine. Nobody sees DSA on it. Nobody sees Adelaja on it. But they see the kingdom on it. They see the portrait of Jesus with the crown on him. They see the plate number, God lives, driving around town. What a way to... So everything DSA has promotes the kingdom. It doesn't promote church. It promotes the kingdom. DSA lives in a mansion. He lives in a flat. I doubt it if where DSA lives is up to 10% of the capacity of the mansion. I'm sure the mansion can host over 40 to 50 people at once. But DSA lives in just less than 10%, if I'm right, of that mansion. I've been there. So this is a man that sincerely promotes the kingdom. This is a man that lives a selfless life. And for me, this is touching. Most of our leaders out there, you can't even be around them. Who among them will even allow you to live in the same house where they live? None of them. So for me, this gave me a picture of a role model. This gave me a picture of Jesus. If Jesus were to be living in our world today, this gave me a picture of someone that his heart is after God and the kingdom. So these are some of the things I've learned, being around DSA. I think maybe a few more. Also, listening to DSA has inspired me to write my own book. I read one of DSA's book, Stop Working for Uncle Sam. And that actually inspired me so much that I wrote my own book titled Get the Job, keep the job, quit the job.
Where is the book?
And
Do you have a copy of the book?
Yes, I do have one here. Yeah, this is it here.
How can we get it?
Yes, I hope to be in Ukraine in April. I hope to be around in April.
Is it on Amazon too?
Yes, it's on Amazon. The book is on Amazon. It's on Amazon.
So
yes,
what's
it's on Amazon.
What's the name again?
The name on Amazon, it's just, I think, quit the job, find your work. Or with my full name.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, with my name on Amazon. I think on Amazon it's Tade Daniel Omotosho.
Okay.
Tade Daniel Omotosho. Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. So reading your book, Stop Working for Uncle Sam, really inspired me and gave me the idea to also write the book, Get the Job. Because I feel a lot of people, they haven't even started working for Uncle Sam yet. So they haven't even started working. A lot of people don't even have jobs yet. So I was thinking, wow, DSA is far ahead, because you're already telling them to stop working for Uncle Sam. So I thought about, okay, let me come up with a book that can actually even help people to get Uncle Sam, to get a job at first. So in my book, I came up with the idea of, based on my own experience and also some personal knowledge, I came up with the idea of how best to get a job, and then I moved on to the next level, how to keep the job, which also I wrote a lot about, adding value to yourself from some of your messages where you talked about, adding value. And look at what I was doing was I was converting things I listen, the things I hear from you, the things I listen to, I convert it, I process it, and I convert it. And I also have this idea, people should listen to this carefully. You see, only animals eat raw food. Only animals eat raw food. Only animals eat grass. Now, if you listen to DSA, then you are living an animalistic level. Because you're not an animal. You are not a tree. When you listen, you are meant to assimilate what you read or hear and then process it in your own way and come up with a product. For me, that is what DSA teaches. And that's the same thing God expects from everyone of us.
Repeat that phrase again.
Yes, if you listen to DSA and you are not productive, you are living an animalistic level of life. Because only animals don't produce things. Only animals are not productive in terms of conversion, in terms of processing, because animals eat raw food. So you can't be eating from the wealth of knowledge of DSA and not process it and produce something from it. And you see, these are some of the things we are not taught where I was coming from. If I had written a book while I was still a pastor, in fact, I wouldn't have been able to write a book if I was still pastoring, because I wouldn't have the time. I wouldn't be so productive. I would be engrossed in the pulpit ministry, whereas God wants me to go beyond the four walls of the church. Church without limits, church without borders. Like I said, the world, the earth is my parish. God doesn't want me to be limited to a parish.
And you said if you had written
a book.
Yes, if you had written the book.
If I had written the book, yeah, it would have been hell. My pastor would have crucified me. Yeah, because you become a threat. That is what is happening. You see, I don't know why people are not happy for you to they want to keep you as slave. They want to oppress you. They want to keep you mesmerized. They want to keep you under. And that's what I learned listening to DSA, that it should even be the joy of a pastor that you can send forth another pastor to go and expand.
Apart from this book that you have written, what are the other kingdom fruits? We only have about 5 minutes to go.
Wow. Well, very very quickly, I have two kingdom fruits. One is there's a Poland kingdom fruit. These are the ones I will be doing in Poland, and then there's the other one which I'll be doing in Nigeria. Earlier in 2015, myself and my wife had written a book for kids to teach English. Because we have a language school as well, and my wife is into that more. So she designed a book to teach kids English, because in Poland they don't speak English. So English is more or less like a second language. So we produced a book, and we with the help of a company and my company as well, we were able to give about 100 books, almost 100 books. We cooperated also with the mayor of the city where we live. And we were able to give books out to poor kids, kids who really want to learn English, but they haven't got books. And I also volunteered myself to teach them for free for about 6 months, and we hope to be able to continue that every year, as God allows us. So that's one. And then secondly, we're also planning to start a library, a community-based library at our house. God gave us a big house, and we are hoping to use some part of the house, to be a library where people can come and borrow books. So we're going to equip it with books, not only for kids, but also for adults. Some of the books, that we have, including DSS books and all that. So we want to influence our community. We want to be a part of our community, And of course, I work in the university, so I have a lot of students around me. And there's a program I do called Discover, Develop, and Deploy, and I hope to continue that, helping people to discover themselves, which I also learned from reading your book, Who Am I? And, I hope to continue that program, discover yourself, develop yourself, and deploy yourself, which in fact should be one of the things that should be taught in our churches. People should be deployed, they shouldn't be kept in the four walls of the church. And the project in Nigeria, there are three. While I went to Nigeria last week, one of my uncle was sick in the village, and I was shocked, that there were no nurses on ground. So that really touched me, and I made up my mind that before the end of this year, I want to sponsor nurses. I want at least one or two nurses that would be there permanently in a small medical center, that can provide emergency treatment for people. And I'll be reaching out to volunteer doctors, who can visit the village once in a week, just to help with medical care. And lastly, the last kingdom fruit, which I want to do, is to start a library also in Ilorin, where I'm from. When I told people I wanted to start a library, they told me, well, people are not so much educated. Do you think they will read? So that gave me an idea. And I'm not going to start a library first, but I'm going to start a literacy center first, where people who feel they need to learn how to read and write. So it's not going to be a school. It's going to be an informal place where people can come and they can learn how to read and write. And then on one side, we can have a library. Growing up, there was a place like that in Ilorin where, you could go there. It was a bookshop. Yes, it was a Christian bookshop. You could go there and read books for free. So that is one of the projects I want to do also in Ilorin,
Beautiful. I would like some people came late. Let us show his video again. I would like to show that video about you. It's so well done. So I want you guys, let's see this video about Daniel. It shows that he's making an impact, a stride in Poland. A country where he has to learn the language, and where he has to learn the language and relate to people. So he is an absolute. Is it the one? Okay, yeah. He's an absolute wonder, and I'm very proud of what he's doing. Let's have a look at this wonderful job this young man.
Being a businessman in Poland is a big challenge. Being a businessman immigrant in Poland is a constant struggle, especially having to deal with the public bureaucracy. This takes a lot of time, a lot of effort and energy. All these are sort of challenged, but I believe with God on my side, I can make it.
Like the Polish wise saying goes, pańskie oko konia tucze, which literally means when you watch over your business, you can grow it. For me, running a business in Poland has been quite adventurous and interesting. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I like to say that it doesn't matter how hard you get hit. What really matters is how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Like Daniel, these are the kind of words I would use to describe him: strong-willed and a goal-getter. He's not a quitter. We know that it's for our own good. It's to give us a comfortable life, safe place away from home, and we are happy about that.
Daniel jest bardzo solidną osobą. W trakcie naszej kilkuletniej współpracy zawsze dotrzymywał ustalonych terminów. To człowiek z zasadami.
Personally, I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles and barriers to get to where I am right now. For you to survive, you need to have faith, willpower, courage, and a thick skin.
Beautiful, beautiful. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. What would you like to tell our audience before we go?
Yeah, well, very quickly, I would like to encourage everyone listening to DSA not just to listen, but to start doing something. You know, because, you know, the Bible says, by their fruits, you shall know them. You know, and this is what people are saying in Nigeria. They say, you people are abroad there, just talking, you're doing nothing. You know, it's time, yes, time we start to do something. So everyone who is, you know, listening to DSA, the intents, you know, learn how to convert. If you can't write a book, do something. If you can, you know, no matter how little it is, start doing something. Now, not just doing it for the sake of doing it because you know that you are not here, you know, to look for a job. You are here because you have a work. You are here because there is something you are meant to contribute. You are here because you are a personality. You are not a biomass. You are here because you are a hero. So it's time to go. That's the word. G-O-D. G-O-D. God. 2/3 of God's name is G-O. So he wants every one of us to go. Go. Don't stop. I don't want a church now. I was so much tempted to start a church. But I told myself, no. God's agenda is bigger than a church. The world is my parish. So everyone must go, rise up, and start doing something. Be kingdom conscious. Whatever you're doing, let the kingdom be the priority. Let the kingdom be at the center of it all. And that is my advice. Start doing something. You've listened for so long. It's time to take action now. Arise and shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is upon you. Amen.
Wow, wow, wow. I hope your wife will be able to come and also do Kingdom Fruit one day. But I'm very proud of you and her and your whole family. You are doing God proud. And I'm happy that as I'm leaving Europe, there is another follower of mine that is left in Europe that's going to continue impacting Europe and the rest of the world. Kudos.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Greet the family for me.
I will. Thank you so much, sir.
Everybody will meet in the next 10 minutes. In the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes. 15 minutes. We will come again. Because we couldn't finish this talk with this guy. We could go on and on. He's doing such a great job. Proud of him. Blessings.